Jack, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. Did you know we actually met, or I first became aware of you because you were trolling one of my posts on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I remember it. And I thought that you'd blocked me because I missed your post for ages, but I think you got blocked yourself or something like that happened.
Well, yeah, I think I did block you, and then I unblocked you after that
Right.
because then I realized actually you're pretty funny.
Right,
But
okay.
then I also did get banned, yeah, for like 6 weeks. But we can talk about that.
Okay.
Oh, well, actually, we're not here to talk about my LinkedIn skills. We're here to talk about your LinkedIn skills. So I want to talk about being funny on LinkedIn because I have like X amount of followers, whatever, but I'm not funny at all. Actually, I'm probably the opposite of funny. Um, but there's a few people like you and our friend Steven who are actually really funny on LinkedIn. So can you tell us how to do that?
Uh, it's a hard question to but I know we don't want to break the fourth wall, but I would argue that there are elements of your posts that are funny, Tom.
For example?
Well, I just think you follow an interesting format, and I think for like listeners, we've never had we've had a few messages here and there, but we've never really connected, so we're into it. So I was looking forward to this, but yeah, we can maybe talk about that later. But being funny on LinkedIn, I guess if you have to ask the question how to be funny, it's probably the bad question to ask. But does it work is a question I get asked a lot of the time. Like, do you actually generate leads? I think if it was me and my business partners that were talking about this recently, if we were posting all these ridiculous posts and nothing ever happened, I think we would have quit a long time ago with the stupid slapstick humor. Um, but what from your outside eye of seeing it, I mean, I'd love to know what was it that made you block me in the first place?
Well, I think because I had this one post and then you parodied it and then like you were kind of rinsing me. And then I feel I was like, I just don't want to like engage with this, because I wasn't getting credited in the post. Like if I was getting credited in the post, maybe would have unblocked you. But then I think in terms of unblocking you, I think maybe someone because when you block someone, you can't see any of their stuff like comments or
Hmm.
anything. But then I think somebody sent me like one of my friends sent me another one of your parodies, like that maybe wasn't of mine, and I was like, well, actually, this guy's pretty funny, and so then I unblocked you. I agree. If I have to ask how to be funny on LinkedIn, I'm fucked. Basically, I can't. Like, I'm not the person that will be funny. So I accept that. And then in terms of working, I think with any social like content you create, as long as you can get people to want to consume your information, then it is going to work. And I think that's what you and Stephen do well in that you're able to build probably a lot more loyal audiences than I have. These people that actually find your stuff funny, like me, and will keep wanting to read it. And then whenever they need sales services, and we'll talk about that later, they come to you. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I think it's like how do you, there are different types of writing, isn't there? So it's like, is my goal to inspire? Is it to inform? Is it to persuade? Is it to entertain? And I'm not good from like my natural disposition of being serious. Like I struggle. I like we try and make things as fun as possible in work, and I think the reason it works so well, if I was on any other platform, Twitter, whatever, I don't. I think it's just the norm, isn't it? People are making so much entertaining content. That's fine. But I think it's like a bit of a juxtaposition. So you're scrolling down your feed and you're seeing like serious posts, influencer posts, and everybody knows it and everybody thinks it and they roll their eyes. Then all of a sudden I'm trying to think of a pattern interrupt of like, wait, what's that? What's he saying? And then giving some kind of punchline at the end. But like you said, it's like, do I stick in their mind of like a lot of the humor is probably based around, I'd say 80-90% of it is based around sales. um the hard bit of that is then when you try to say, oh, okay, actually, I, I feel like I know my stuff, and I'm not just some clown that I like. There is another business that's running in the background, so I think it does go against you at points, but it's you can't win everybody. Is one thing I've definitely taken away from it.
Well, I think you did well in this post from about 5 hours ago, where you're talking about the 6 things you'd focus on if you were in your first sales job. 1 to 5 are actually serious. And then 6 is getting more photos of me in a headset in case one day I want to become an ultimate sales influencer. And then the picture of you with the headset on, I believe, in your first sales role. So I think you have that balance nicely. And then you have the thing I think you add to the end of every post is remember you will die, which is probably the thing to like click people out of their scrolling routine.
Yeah, I think some people think that is a joke. That that's probably like the one serious thing that I do post about, but it's definitely got to be light-hearted, and I think it's how do you stop people in their tracks? Like that's the goal, isn't it? On any kind of social media hooks, and you see all the bullshit formats, but like it makes you feel something either way. Like I'm sure people see some of your posts and they're like, oh my God, I feel so passionate about that. Or actually the other way around where it's like, no, that's a bit silly or that's ridiculous. I'm going to get involved, but you're making people feel either way. The last thing you want is indifference of just people being like, "Oh right, cool, yeah, whoever, who's Tom, who's Jack, whatever." Scroll on, forget about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The kind of best posts I've been repeatedly posting recently is the one where I'm talking about people having like the freedom to work anywhere they want. And so there's one group of people that are like, wow, I want to have that. You're such a great boss. And the other group of people who are like, have you thought about the tax compliance in all these different countries, etc., like how you pay tax, etc. And that is just for me great because then there's these massive comment threads of people arguing about it,
Mm.
and every comment is just getting me more impressions. So I would agree in your analysis. So what I'm hearing then is that this is working to generate leads for the. I think there's like two or three businesses you're working on at the moment, right?
Yeah, yeah. It definitely generates leads. I don't really have the conversations with the people it turned off, as you can imagine. So I'm sure it does turn a lot of people off. I think we both ended up on LinkedIn Lunatics a couple of times, haven't we? Like, what's your for anybody that doesn't know, LinkedIn Lunatics is obviously this Reddit thread of like the most ridiculous posts. When I'm writing them, I my attempt is to be as ridiculous as possible so that I end up on there. What's your take when you end up on there?
Yeah, I've actually submitted my own posts onto there. I think I got
Oh
banned from like
wow.
LinkedIn Lunatics. I know just for like the extra impressions, you know. My they're like my girlfriend's friends, and my girlfriend's like, oh my god, they're saying these horrendous things about you. But I'm like, it really doesn't matter, and it's actually probably a bit more attention, you know, which is what we're in this game for. We'll link to LinkedIn Lunatics below because it is an absolutely hilarious. Like it's so funny. It's probably my favorite subreddit. But yeah, I don't know if I've been on there recently. I think I was on there a few times when like in the last few months when the posts were kind of ridiculous. Maybe they're getting less ridiculous now. But you're kind of like your content is almost like taking the piss out of people like me, and so it's almost like you should be like I don't know why they're putting you on there, you know, because you're like one of them.
Yeah, the issue is with the written word is people don't know and people aren't sure. And then so yeah, we've built an audience of people that go, "Oh, that is a classic." Like if you see a post now, it's like you're in on the joke. Okay, so you're like you know it, but then obviously the reach of LinkedIn is crazy, whereas people will see it and go like, "Actually, that's not." I went. Did you see the post about the kids with the car wash?
No, I haven't seen that one.
So it went viral in America, but it got to the point where it was a bit like scary because I did this post about, and the takeaway from the post was you should always negotiate your payment terms up front, which I think is like a really actual key message. So there's always some kind of seriousness within. There is a key message. And I did this post and I said, well, the kids didn't negotiate payment terms up front, so I didn't pay them. It went viral on a different Reddit thing. I kid you not, I got messages on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, like all of these awful messages. People were ringing my business partner, people were ringing me, like sending emails and just like death threats. It was all quite like
Really?
intense from the Americans because they like nobody could see they were like this is genuine because why else. I think some people struggle to comprehend why would you post these kind of things on LinkedIn if it's a joke. Obviously the game is I think of it as like a top of funnel. How do I get as many eyes on me? Cool. So then the next time I post and I say this is the business, this is the offering, or this is something a little bit serious, then people are like, oh right, okay, there's maybe a little bit more. I came for the parody post, but I'll say. And I think also like I get my own personal enjoyment from it, like trolling people. It's I always think like, can I be kinder? But you do see some crappy stuff on LinkedIn, and you just think, actually, I need to hold the mirror up on this I don't know if you saw, there was one I did the other day, which was a guy posts like text messages, and he's like, how many leads do we generate? Yeah, how much money do we make? And I did like a parody of it, and it's just like, yeah, but also that could just be someone's mum, and they're also talking about like what they fancy for dinner. Um, so I think like it's not for everyone, like going down a bit of a ridiculous route, but I think if you can, if it's part of like brand, isn't it? And our WAM brand anyway is quite standoutish. We're trying to be disruptive in the industry. We're trying to be a bit different with what we're doing with cold calling. Obviously, it it kind of fits hand in hand.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like fits with your personality, the business, etc. How much time do you spend creating content and being on LinkedIn versus actually selling these days? When I say selling, like being on sales calls.
Yeah, I think it's hard because we're. I mean, I don't spend as much time as you might think. Like I enjoy LinkedIn. It's definitely a guilty hobby. But then on the weekend, on like a Sunday evening, I'll write a load of posts and I'll schedule it. And I think from like you probably know this as well. Like once you've written loads and loads of posts, you've got inspiration for days. I've got three and a half years worth of inspiration now. Um, in terms of actual selling, there's a business of 20 people that we run. So like my day now is crazy busy from like onboarding new clients to closing a deal to different things like managing the existing clients, managing the team, and all of these podcasts. Like, so it's even as the business has grown, even the selling bit, I don't get to do as much as I want. But obviously, we get we've hired like a head of new biz who focuses on like closing deals as well. So the more the business grows, you might see this as well. Like you get more and more removed from what you were initially started off doing as it's grown.
For sure, this is one of the reasons why I moved away. So I spent like 2 years posting about B2B marketing, like 10 likes, 15 likes. And then as I started moving away from doing that, because the business grew, now I start doing like hiring posts and then we get thousands of likes, you know. But let's dig into the business then. With the one we're talking about here is that WHAM, we have a meeting.
Hmm.
Got it. And you have the co-founder there. I think I saw a post about your co-founder.
Yeah, so that there's think of us like the Jonas Brothers. There's me and Zach that kind of do all things sales, team management, and then you've got Ben, our operations director, who makes sure that the trains run on time, and he does all the clever work that me and Zach aren't smart enough to do.
And so if you had the choice, would you just be on calls like closing all day, or would you be building the business, or you like doing both?
Um, it's hard because obviously, like it's a really good question. I think it's hard. Like you enjoy it when you do it when you do that, and you'll go through a period where there'll be a ton of inbound leads, and you'll be like closing, 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 or like you're having loads and loads of discovery calls, and then you're like, oh, I wish I was doing the other bits. And then when you are doing those bits, then you kind of miss it a little bit. So I think it's a hard one. I definitely don't want to be. I definitely don't want to fall into a place where it's like I talk about things and you teach things, but actually you're not actively doing that. I think that would be like a dangerous place to be. But then fast forward 20 years, will I still be making cold calls every day? Probably not. And I think that's just recognizing how you grow as a person and as the business grows as well. And it's like the phrase like um, catch a fish. What's that? You probably know it. Catch a fish, you feed a man for a day, or teach a man to fish, and you'll feed him for the rest of his life. So that's kind of a bit of the goal now of like making sure the team are like trying to take what's in mine and Zach's head and give it to the team so that they can grow and they can inspire other people.
And then we also have a sales consultancy, which is separate to WAM.
Mm.
Cool.
So
And
that
that's
was
just you.
no, that's me, Zach, and Ben as well. That was set up from people would come in and say, I just want to have lots of meetings. We're great when we get in front of people. We're great with closing deals. We just want to have the meetings, but we don't want to do the legwork, the hard bit. Okay, cool, we can do that. Then over time, what we found was people were like, oh, I'm sitting all these meetings, but nothing's happening. I'm like, right, well, why? Let's start sitting on a few calls. Actually, so many companies, I think sales is such a dirty word, but so many people have like a funny feeling towards it. So they don't have right sales processes in place. They don't have the right teams. They don't have the right tech stack. They don't have X, Y, Z, whatever. So now it's a kind of a, well, we'll just come in and we'll build that for you. So we're working with that. That's more of like a WAM, 30 clients plus. We can continue to take them and grow. A sales consultancy, there's like 3 clients actually, because it's a lot of time. We can't work with that many people.
Got it. So WHAM is like setting up the meetings, a sales consultancy, more holistic,
Yeah,
strategic
yeah. It's like
setting.
any kind of consultancy. Like, just we'll give you the advice. Here's all the blind spots. You either, I think with like business, you either pay in time or money. So for businesses that are like, okay, what am I maybe missing? Well, you're not doing anything top of funnel. So let's come in, build that top of funnel function, and then you've got enough. Then you've got stuff coming in. Oh, but you're not closing them. Why is that? And I think because me, Zach, and Ben have that experience, it's easier to spot, and that's where it's worked quite well.
And then we also have the community, which is, I guess, for people that want to get better at sales. And that's also branded under WHAM.
Yeah, so that's a free community. What we found is, like, a lot of salespeople reach out to us. They want to ask us advice. They've got a question, and actually, it's so hard to be like, right, okay, how do I reply to everyone? And obviously, like, it's not a massive business, so put them all in one community. People that are actually passionate about sales and care about getting better, and then from there, what we can do is we can answer questions. We can do like live Q&As, etc. All of those different things.
Nice. Let's talk about sales in 2024 because you must have a lot of data through WHAM on how we're getting these meetings. What's changed, would you say, in the last like 4 years in terms of setting, like, not the later part of the process, like the process of going from not being known to getting the meeting?
Yeah, I think every AI, obviously, I think around COVID, AI wasn't like the buzzword that it is now. So AI is used, you probably use it in very a variety of different elements within your business. It's an easy buzzword, and people are thinking, well, I don't want to be left behind. So what I'll do is I'll use AI. But then all of a sudden, you've got people that aren't experts in sales, or they're not really, they don't have loads and loads of history, and they'll set something up AI, what they think or what they deem is good, and then they'll just start firing stuff out, and that can be LinkedIn messages, emails, and the human brain is designed to keep us safe, and over time we've evolved. We're great at spotting it now. Like, if I sent you 5 messages and 4 of them was AI and one was personal, like, you'd know. um so that then becomes a saturated market. You think about like how busy someone's inbox is, thousands of emails on a weekly basis, or how busy their LinkedIn inbox is, so many messages. Then what can you do to stand out in that environment? Cold calling also gets a bad rap because we're part of like a generation that are probably less likely to want to speak on the phone. But what we're used to is people will call up and say, "Hi, how are you today?" Blah 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 blah, and they're bad cold calls. If you can actually like deliver a good cold call, it still works. And we've ran LinkedIn campaigns, we've ran email campaigns, and we, we've hardly seen any results. But actually, we know, tried and tested. We do it for other companies and other clients in all different industries, and we do it for us primarily. That's where like the majority of our business comes from. So why sleep on that?
Okay, let's go into the first 5 seconds of a cold call because I know this is like the crucial period. Like, if you don't hook them in that period, you're just not going to get anywhere. What do
Hmm.
you have to do in that time period?
So let's have a little psychology lesson. So the chimp brain is the part of so the brain is split into 3 parts. So the human brain, the computer brain, and the chimp brain. The chimp brain is the one that answers the phone. Okay, so typically in fight or flight mode, it's a number I don't recognize. Who is this? What's going on? Is it bad news? Is it good news? Are they trying to sell to me? Are they going to bore me to death? Are they going to pitch at me? What could it be? So because of the chimp brain, what we need to do is we need to interrupt the pattern and get to the human part of the brain. So the way to do that, there are 3 things that disarm the chimp part of the brain. That is humor, that is honesty, and that is allowing them room to say no. So this is why we lean on as an agency the majority of the time, not always because every campaign is different, but permission-based openers. Now, you've probably seen them on LinkedIn. They all sound different, but a classic permission-based opener would be, Tom, we've never spoken before. It is a sales call. I don't know if that makes you want to drop kick your phone across the room or let me have 30 seconds. I'm trying to make you laugh. I'm being honest and upfront, but I'm also giving you that permission to say, yeah, I do want to drop kick my phone across the room.
That is probably the best like opener to a cold call I get. I've actually set my phone so it won't accept numbers that I haven't called or that are unknown.
Wow,
But
you're
now
missing
maybe
out, Tom.
I'll yeah, and now maybe I'll open it and then see if I get like first like intros like that.
But you
Okay,
probably
so let's
won't.
say
You'll probably get, "Hi Tom, how are you? It's Jack calling from WHAM. What's going on today?" And you go, "Yeah, I'm okay, thanks." Well, the reason for my call is we're an expert B2B, and you just think, "Shut up."
yeah, that's the worst. The worst is when they're like they don't even tell you why they're calling. They're like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, like you run Fame, etc., etc." And I'm like, obviously, every person in their head is like, "Why is this person talking to me?"
Yeah, yeah. So just get there first. You rip the plaster off, and the same applies in any kind of sales process. If you're sitting with somebody in a sales environment and you know that they don't know the price and it's that awkward bit, we'll share it at the front of the call. Like your job is to relieve kind of any stress or anxiety. So when people are feeling relaxed, they're more likely to be open, and you're more likely to build rapport and trust and all those things. So anything that could put them in some kind of fight or flight stage, bring it to the start of the call.
So what's next? If I say I've got 2 minutes, so I'm not going to drop kick my phone. What happens next?
Okay, I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm not just going to speak at you. I'll go, okay, well, I'll whiz through it. And if by the end you feel like actually it's not a good use of your time, just let me know. Is that fair?
That's fair.
So I've got that permission. You bought in. We know we've got 2 minutes. I'm going to hit you with like a little value proposition. So I might say, Tom, I'm typically invited in by CEOs of SaaS platforms. If they're honest, they might be struggling with one of the following problems. Now I'm going to give you a bit of a problem buffet. So I'm going to hit you with some problems that are probably not vague, but like probably going to apply to you as a CEO. So it could be like getting more clients, whatever it is. If it was WHAM, it would be like getting in front of more people, the right kinds of people, or maybe breaking into new sectors. Then I'm going to go for a negative framing, and I'm going to say, well, Tom, this might be the point where you say, actually, your 2 minutes is up, and none of those problems exist in my world. And you go, yeah, they don't exist, or no, I could see how they could. And then we're going to start to have a conversation. Well, listen, I've had 30 seconds. I know you've got a couple more minutes. Are you happy to continue the conversation? Yeah. Okay. Out of the three things I mentioned, I guess more people, the right people, or new sectors, what one stood out to you the most?
I reckon it's probably getting into a new sector.
Okay, interesting. Not many people say that. And then we're gonna work with like an availability heuristic. So the more available examples that you can give of a problem, the more likely it is. So my job now is to try and be a therapist to get you to open up, to kind of talk about your world, your problems. It's all about you, and to see if it is actually a genuine problem. And then we're going to talk about motivation. But I'll go, okay, well, can you give me an example? What does that look like in your world?
So I feel like there's a new customer persona that really need some podcasts, and we don't really have any experience reaching them or getting them to find us.
Okay. When did you notice that?
Probably around 6 months, I saw the opportunity arise.
Okay. So 6 months ago, let me summarize that back. So 6 months ago, you saw something arise. I guess what have you been doing with it since?
It's kind of just been sitting there. Like I don't really know how to approach it, and so when you mentioned that you could approach new sectors, that was attractive to me.
Okay. And then I guess if you don't implement that new persona, it feels like you've probably got enough business coming in from other places.
We're doing okay, but we're always happy to grow more or faster.
And then I'm going to take you down that path. I'm going to see like what happens if you don't find this new persona, why you need to grow faster, what are you working towards? Is it towards an exit? Is it towards funding? What's the personal motivation? If you get 50 clients, do you get to go home earlier, or do you get to grow the team? Do you get a new Lamborghini? Whoever Tom is and what his motives are. That's kind of the path I want to take it down.
And then typically would the goal be to like close on to another call where it's going to be more strategic, or what's the next step?
Yeah, so the cold calls, the best ones are typically between like 10 and 12 minutes. And I'm looking for two things. Do they have a problem, and are they motivated to solve that problem? So like a flagpole in the sand, if you kick it, does it stick? Does it stay? And then after we're talking, there'll be probably a point where you enter a state of deep thought. You'll attach an emotion to that. And then it's going to be like, well, listen, I don't know if I can help you, Tom. Obviously, we've been speaking for 12 minutes. I guess, is there any reason why we couldn't sit down and explore this further? And if by the end of that call you feel like we're not a good solution for you, we can leave it there. Is that fair?
That's very fair.
and
And then
then
we lock in the
go on some,
time,
and
like
then we
there and then. You know,
there and then we've done it.
it's nice. It's very nice. How long have you been doing sales for?
I had my first sales job when I was 16, so that would have been around about 2008, maybe. Um,
Wow.
so fairly long time, but a lot of crappy sales jobs didn't really take it seriously, didn't care about getting good. Sales is just psychology, and I think like anything, it's that path towards mastery of like, right, okay, what happens if you apply yourself and try to get good? But sales and marketing, it's the same kind of, it's behavioral science. So you're thinking in the same way. How do I make people feel something? How do I help them solve what they want to solve?
Yeah, the best definition I have for that is sales just one-on-one communication with the intent of influencing, and then marketing is
Hmm.
one to many. I have a gap on the CV here, though, Jack. We graduated in 2013 and then started working or created WHAM in 2021. So were we just selling in that time? Were we just closing deals?
No, I was in a boy band for 6 years.
No
Um,
way.
I was in a boy band. I was the lead singer in a boy band, which is,
Where can we find that? We'll link to some of the tunes.
yeah, you don't want to do that, Tom. And then I was working alongside, working in sales jobs alongside music, and then my boy band failed, and I ran off to join a cruise ship for a couple of years, and then I came
Oh,
back, and I ended up in a sales job,
singing, singing on
singing,
the cruise ship.
and a
Yeah,
bit of
nice.
bingo. Um, and then yeah, and then I was like, right, okay, let's get good at this. My business partner and best friend Zach set up We Have a Meeting, and then 3 4 months later, I was like, right, get me involved. How do we do this? And then the business grew, and and here we are a few years later, older, grayer, and more tired,
But expanding.
but
How
expanding.
I assume you're a crucial part of the WAM business is going to be the recruitment of the people doing the cold calls, recruitment and
Hmm.
training. How like any tips on a finding, and it doesn't have to be specific to finding salespeople, but like finding the right people and then training the right people.
Um, I think training you. There are certain things we look for when it comes to like the right people. I think in terms of finding them, we've used recruiters in our early days, and we've paid lots and lots of money for recruiters. We've actually found like actually doing it internally is the best because we know what we're looking for. A recruiter is great at selling a person, but actually who that person is and who they turn out to be might be completely different. Whereas if you spend a couple of rounds with people getting to know them, you work out quite quickly who they genuinely are. um, I think we look for certain things in terms of like training them, but like typically salespeople, the SDR function is straight out of university or a graduate job. It's like they might have done. It's always good when you look at a CV and they've done like PPI sales for 2 years. You're like, oh, okay, you might not have the skill set required, but we can get you good in no time. But actually, you've got that little resilience chip where you're not that bothered about like being told to piss off or hanging up on you.
Yeah, that makes total sense. The PPI thing, I think that's over now, right? But then it sounds like it was a grind. That person has been rejected a lot.
Yeah, I used to sell IVAs, so I'd call you up and I'd say, Tom, my name's Jack, calling from IVA.com. Are you in £10,000 or more worth of debt? And you can imagine, were you about
The
to admit
discussion
it
from
live?
there.
You're like, yeah, yeah, a lot of debt, Jack, actually. I'm glad you've called. But yeah, the conversations don't usually go nicely.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That's a tricky one, and I bet there's some people that are quite emotional in those situations.
Yeah, that you can't even help. So you're like, oh, brilliant, I've got an old woman crying now and I can't even solve her problem. So it was the opposite of a win-win.
I bet, though, correct me if I'm wrong, that the LinkedIn presence and also the WAM sales community is feeding uh, recruitment for WAM.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It definitely helps that we've just hired 5 new people, and I think one of those hires has been, and you see, and it's great for us as well. But we've seen them like liking posts for like the last year or so, or like commenting here and there. So when they came in, or they messaged me and was like, "I've seen you put it in," it's like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna interview someone like you because there is that familiarity. Like, oh, you put a bit in, it feels like you're learning, and then if you tick the boxes across, um, yeah. But we've also hired some fans of the WHAM system in the past that haven't worked out, and I've now got restraining orders against them. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think one way of looking at it is like you're almost training and onboarding people before they join with all the content you create. Like I've seen videos of you, I think, recording cold calls with other people on your team that you put on LinkedIn.
Mm.
Right, that's still almost training people in the method.
Yeah, exactly. The con to that is you can get some people that feel like they know it pretty well, and then they come in, and then it's like, oh, there's like like a massive knowledge gap. So you're thinking like, if I have a blank slate of someone that's like, I'm ready to learn, get rid of all my old bad habits, cool, easy. Somebody that feels like they know it a bit, well, where do you start with that one? That's where it can get trickier.
Makes total sense, Jack. Right, we're going to link to WHAM, the WHAM community, and a sales consultancy below. We'll link to LinkedIn, obviously. Anything else we should link to or mention?
No, just the website. Has it been what you wanted, Tom? How do you feel as we
I
approach
mean,
the end?
like you as a person were kind of as I expected, like a little bit taking the piss, like quite funny, you know. So this is the first time we met for people listening. So yeah, you have lived completely up to my expectations. The cold call demo or example was epic, as I mentioned, the best cold call intro I've heard. So yeah, I'm very happy so far.
Good, and I'm glad you unblocked me. We're moving towards. We went from connections to acquaintances. Who knows? One day, Tom, we might be good pals.
We're also going to I'm going to do an event one day about LinkedIn in London, and you and Stephen are going to talk about how to be funny on LinkedIn in the
How
event.
to
It's going to be
piss
like
people
the
off.
keynote. Yeah, yeah. The keynote speech is going to be a panel with me interviewing you two about how you've bullied me for the last 6 months. Jack, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.